Hello, this is Sarah Satch from Posh Pooch Designs, and today's video I'm going to be showing you how to make this fun little Uncle Sam's top hat. This can be a photo prop for a baby. It can be a photo prop for a puppy or a cat, and I'll show you how to add some ties on it to tie it on. It can be a photo prop for you. Or you can use it in your patriotic 4th of July Flag Day decoration. It's just a fun little, it measures 3 inches from here, brim to here, with the brim flat out. It measures about 3 inches tall. So it's a fun little decoration and just a fun little hat to make. And if you like to take pictures of your babies or your puppies or your kitties or even your big kids, this is a fun little pattern to make. Now, this is a free pattern on my blog, and I will put that pattern link in the comments so that you will have that. So let's go ahead and tell you what you need. What you're going to need is red, white, and blue worsted weight number 4 yarn. Takes a small amount of each kind. Today we're working with Red Heart with Love for our colors. You're also going to need, if you want to, some fun buttons. And the one that I did for Maximo has a button that I made with polymer clay. But you can add a paw print button, a dog bone button, anything, a heart button. Here's a blue star I picked up. Or even if you've got some of these flag buttons, they're fun too. Any button, like a golden star, anything that you want to put on your hat. It's your hat. You can do whatever you want. You can embellish it however you want to. So, you need worsted weight yarn, and then we're going to be working with an H-hook today. And I've got my trusty purple H-hook that's my favorite H-hook. You can use any H-hook that you want. And that's pretty much all you need, except you're going to need a needle for weaving in your ends. And if you're there's one step where if you'd rather sew it on than use the slip stitch, you can do that. But it's good to always have that needle for weaving in those ends. That's the best way to weave in your ends. And then, of course, a pair of trusty scissors for clipping yarns. All right, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to move the screen down so that you can see what's going on with my hands. All right, there's our little top hat that we're going to make. And the top hat is made in 4 steps. The first step is the top. The second step is the side. The third step is the blue band. And then the red band is the 4th step. All right, let's set him aside and let's get started. All right, I've got my blue yarn and my purple trusty H-hook. We're going to begin with chaining 2. 1, 2. And then we're going to stitch 8 half double crochets in the second chain from the hook. There's 1. A half double crochet, you put the loop over your hook, go in the stitch you're working, pull a loop through, yarn over, and go through all 3 loops. And we're going to stitch 8 of those for the center of our hat, or this, I should say, the center of our top hat. All right, let's see how many I've got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's do one more, so we have 8. And then we're going to join to the first half double crochet that we made and chain 2. There's our first row. The next row we're going to put 1 half double crochet in that same stitch as the chain 2. And then we're going to put 2 half double crochets in each stitch around. And that will give us 16 half double crochets. 8 for the first row and 16 for row 2. Let's get some more yarn out here. I know I've probably said this in the past, but the half double crochet is one of my favorite stitches because when the single crochet is too short, and a double crochet is too long, the half double crochet is the perfect stitch. Alrighty. So now we've got 16 half double crochets around, and we're going to join to the top of that chain 2 that we made, the chain 2 count our first double crochet. We join to the top by pulling our loop through and chain 2. Now on the third row, we're going to count our first double crochet, chain 2 is our first double crochet, and then we'll put 2 double crochets in the next stitch. 1, 2, and then we'll put 1 double crochet in the next stitch, and we'll continue this around. Whoops, there we go. There's 2, 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets in the next stitch. 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets in the next stitch. And we'll continue this all the way around for our row 3. And after this row, you should have a total of 24 stitches. 24 half double crochets. 1 and 1. 2. Okay, so now we've got our 24 stitches. We're going to join to the top of that chain 2, and then we're going to tie off. So pull that loop through. Now, if you have a hole in here, you're going to need to take your needle to close that hole. Thread your needle on the back side of your work. This is the front, this is the back. On the back side, just go through those little loops from our first row of those 8 half double crochets. Just put your needle through, just like that, and pull it closed. I need to go through a few more there to make sure I'm all the way around, and pull that hole closed, just like that. And then I'm going to do a couple of loop stitches, just kind of going back to weave in my end. And then I will cut the top of that stitch off, or the top of that string off. Okay, and now we have a nice closed hole circle, and you want to go ahead and weave in your tail as well. So I'm going to go back on my back side of my work where we were working, and I'm just going to loop around some of these back stitches just like that. And sometimes when I'm weaving my ends in, I'll kind of go back in stitches I just did and do that a couple of times, and I find that holds really well. And the reason we're going ahead and weaving that in is because we don't want any string left to have to deal with. So we cut off our ends and we have a nice round little circle. This is the top of our top hat. Alright, we're going to set this circle aside, and we're going to work the stripes for part 2. So on part 2, we're going to be using the red and white yarn. I'm going to put my needle up there. Okay, and what you're going to do is we're going to start with the red yarn. So I'm going to put this one back here because we are going to need it. And you're going to chain 11 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then we're going to stitch 1 single crochet in the second chain from the hook. The first chain is here, and we're going to stitch in the second chain from the hook 1 single crochet in each chain across, and that will give us 10 single crochets. The number of crochets on this particular portion of our hat, our stripe section, will always be 10 single crochets, whether you're working with the white or the red. All right, then we're going to chain 1. And in this portion also, that chain 1 is not a stitch, it's just a turning chain. Okay, now what we're going to be doing is stitching in the back loops. Let me move that piece of yarn out of the way there. And you can see you have 2 loops on the top of each stitch. Your front loop is the loop, your front loop, I'm pointing to the back loop, trying to explain to you the front loop. Your front loops are the loops that are closest to you. And your back loops are the loops that are away from you. And we're going to be stitching in the back loops for the remainder of this project of step 2, I should say. So we're going to go in the back loop and single crochet all the way across. And that's how we get the ridges on the hat. So all the stripes, red and white, are stitched in the back loops. You see how I'm doing that? You go in the back loop, not through both loops. And if you don't want to stitch them in the back loops, you certainly can work the hat that way, but it will be flat. It won't be rigidy. Is rigidy a word? It won't have the ridges. You know, my daughter says sometimes I make up words on my own. I probably do. All right, there's our 10 single crochets. When you're changing colors, which we're going to do right here, you're going to change color before you do the chain 1. So we're at the end of this row. We're going to pull our white yarn in, pull that a little bit snug, and then chain 1. And on this portion of the hat, don't cut your yarn, because we're going to just trail it up, because we're going to be changing colors every other row, and we're going to trail it up, and that way you don't have all those ends to weave in. So we've made our single crochet when we changed colors with our white, and we're going to continue to work in the back loops of our stitches. Go in the back loop and stitch your single crochets. Just like that. Get that back loop, chain 1, and turn. And then you're going to stitch in the back loops across the white row. Just like that. Now I have one that's already ready for you, so I'm going to set this aside. And I have one right here that I've already done. And on the side here, what I was talking about, not cutting your thread, because your yarn, because when we come back, we're going to stitch our blue row for our hat band right across there, and it'll hold that in place, and we don't have to weave in all those ends. Okay, so now we have this, and what we're going to do, we're going to put the 2 ends together, and then we're going to stitch them. I'm checking my notes because I want to make sure I tell you the correct thing. What we're going to do is we're going to put the 2 ends together just like this. We ended with the white, and we're going to go through both of those stitches, and we're going to slip stitch them together just like that. Make sure you don't pull too tight, and you're going to need to stitch 10 slip stitches going through both the red and the white edges across. So now if you pull these slip stitches too tight, it will pucker up on you. Make sure you keep them nice and loose to hold. Now if they're too loose, you don't want them to be droopy and loopy, so you're going to have to kind of work with it a little bit and make sure they're where they need to be. All right, get that last one in there on that last stitch. There we go. Just like that. Cut our yarn, tie off, and make sure at this point you use that needle and what I do to weave in this end is I just kind of loop it back, give myself a little bit longer tail there, just like that. And then the last one, I just sort of go through all those stitches and cut it off. All right, now we're going to turn it over because this is our underside, and now we're going to turn it over, and this is what the hat looks like. Okay, the next step we're going to do is we're going to attach this to this. And that is a little more difficult than you think. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn this back on the wrong side. And then we're going to cut off a piece of the blue yarn. You can either do this with your hook and do slip stitches around, or you can use your needle and sew it on. I kind of like to use my needle and sew it on because you're going to have to ease it around because it has to stretch a little. Okay, so I go through these 2 loops, and then I go through 2 loops here, and the first one I go like this, I leave my tail a little bit, and then I pull that through, and that makes kind of a stay stitch. And then I kind of eyeball it. You're going to have to eyeball it, stretch it out a little to make it fit. It's called easing, and I just take in each of the 24 stitches around, we're just going to sort of loop it through. And I do this a couple of times. The first time through really is what I call just kind of stay stitches. It kind of puts it where it needs to be. We're going to loop around like that. And then we're going to keep moving, making sure we ease it around. Just like that. Can you see that? I pulled it too close to me. I'm sorry about that. I'm trying to get it where you can see it. But you just ease it around. There's lots of nice stretch in yarn, and especially with this pattern. So just like that. All the way around. And now I'm back where I started. So what I usually do is I go through that one I just made and sort of make a little bit of a slip knot just to kind of hold it. Tie that down. And then I go back over and I do the same thing. I go until my yarn is done, and I cut off about probably about a 15 to 16 inch piece of yarn that I'm sewing with. Now, if you did this with your hook and you did slip stitches, you'd pretty much do the same thing. I just find it a lot easier to do it this way. But of course, it's totally up to you how you want to do it. And we're going to tie that off. Boy, maybe I need a new pair of scissors. Set my needle aside. And now we're going to flip it over to the right side. Okay, and now we have our little poof top. All right, so the next step is adding the hat band. We're going to be using blue again. So let me pull some blue over here. And for the hat band, what we're going to be doing is I try to find where we started. Let me look underneath to find my end right here. And I'm going to join the blue yarn to the bottom of one of those stitches. Now each one of these is 2 rows, and what I do is I put 1/2 double crochet in the end of each row. So let's bring our yarn up, get that hooked on, and then we're going to chain 1 more, counts as our first 1/2 double crochet, and then we're going to put a double crochet in the end of each row, just like that. So we're going to put 1 here and 1 here. And make sure as you're doing this that those loops are getting caught under, because we want to hide them. We don't want those loops that we did at the end of the rows to show. Oops, I just did a single crochet. Oops, and I pulled out a 1/2 double crochet. Okay, 2 1/2 double crochets at the end of each row, just like that. Now, if you find that there's too much space between your stitches, you can add as many stitches as you want. Just make sure you don't add so many that it starts to flare yet, because this row needs to be nice and straight and come straight down for our top hat. Because really, this is the, we want this to look like the band of the hat. I keep grabbing that red, there we go, I keep grabbing the red string with my hook. Alright, I'm almost around. I think this top hat would be really cute to use like a cranberry and a navy blue and a cream, just to get a little red, white, and blue, but not the exact red, white, and blue colors. I think that would be really pretty too for decorations. These would be fun just to sit around the table when you're decorating for, say, a picnic or for 4th of July or Flag Day, Memorial Day, Veterans Day. They're just a fun decoration. Okay, so I'm back around. I'm going to join to the top of that chain 2, and then we're going to 1/2 double crochet again in each stitch around, just like that. So this pattern doesn't have any tricky stitches. Basically, you single crocheted, and we chained, single crochet, and 1/2 double crochet. And then, of course, the last row is double crochet, which we'll do in red when we finish the blue band. And you'll see this is a really easy pattern. It's a little different, and I like that the stripes are going up and down. And that's why I designed it to have the middle go up and down. Even though it has some extra construction, it's really easy, and it's also fun to have those stripes going up and down. Now I've made them where the stripes go around, and you can do that also. I have another hat pattern that is my, it's just a basic black top hat, and then I have an Irish top hat. And you can do the same thing with that hat and make the stripes go around instead of up and down. I just really liked the fun look of the stripes going up and down. All right, we've gotten almost around here. I pulled back my arms again. There we go. One more 1/2 double crochet, and then we're going to join. And we're going to cut that yarn, and then we're going to get our red yarn. The last step of this pattern, and you can see the hat band there now. And that's a cute little hat in itself, isn't it? Okay, now to do the hat band, we're going to join on our red yarn, not the hat band, the hat brim. We're going to put our red yarn on and chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And to form the flare, we're going to put 1 double crochet in the next stitch, and then 2 double crochets in the next stitch. So what we're going to be doing is 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2. And that gives us the flare at the bottom of the hat so that the bottom of the hat stands out and sits flat. Just like that. 1, 2. Just like that. And you end up with this one. Now, this one has not been blocked. I just made it so that you could see it. And so you may, if you're going to use this for decoration, you may want to spray this with some water and make it flat. But I mean, this is the hat. And of course, you can add whatever buttons that you want for decoration. I really love these big yellow hearts. I think they would look really cute on there. Don't you? Well, I told you I would tell you how to make some ties. And the other thing that's fun to do is to make a couple of ties so that you can tie it on your baby or your dog or your kitten or even yourself. And for the dog ties, I just chained for 25 chains out of red. Then I turned and did a double crochet in the end of the the second chain from the hook, and then I slip stitched all the way back up. And you can do that for a baby or a person or for fun or whatever, and you want to make it longer, just chain as long as you want to. Turn 1 double crochet in the second chain from the hook, and that's what gives it kind of a rounded edge, and then slip stitch all the way back to where you started. And the way you connect that is, what I do is I go like this, and I find the 2 edges, and right here where the blue is attached to the stripes, I go like this, and I take both of those strings in just like that and make a loop, and then I do give it a little tie and weave in the ends, and that will give you a tie on both ends so that you can put it on your dog or your cat and tie it on their head or their baby. Just remember not to make the ties too long if you're going to use it on a child, because you don't want it to be a strangling hazard. And that's the reason I don't make my ties real long for my dogs. And what I do is I test it on their head, and then I just tie a little knot like this so that I can slip it on without having to tie it or untie it. And also, it's not too long that they're going to get it caught in their toenails. And it's the same thing with your kids. You want to make it fit, but you don't want it to be too tight. But you also want them to be able to yank it off their head and not hurt themselves. So that's kind of up to you how you want to do that. But that's how you can make some ties to make it fit your dog or your cat or your puppy or yourself. So that's our Uncle Sam's top hat pattern. And like I said, I'll put that pattern on the blog so that you will have it. Thank you for watching my YouTube channel today, and make sure you hit that subscribe button and also that like button. Have a great day.